Hello, welcome back to the Circular and You project once again. Today's episode is part of a series of online discussions I'm hosting to elevate circular fashion conversation by offering insight from circular fashion and circular economy industry pioneers. Today I'm very excited to welcome an incredibly innovative, thought-leading guest, Chelsea Carlson. I came across Chelsea through the No New Clothes 2020 hashtag on Instagram, where I found her page Data Closet. Data Closet is Chelsea's project in which she's tracking her wardrobe usage throughout the year and sharing that journey with us. So I'm really excited to get to speak to her today to learn more about what this project has taught her and what it has to do with the fashion industry. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy today's video.
Hey, hi. I'm so glad we're here at the same time.
I know, I can't believe it. Honestly, when I was Googling and Zoom were telling me different things, I thought, okay, this may go wrong, but we've done it.
First step, check.
How are you?
I'm really good. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm so excited to actually get to speak to you in person because we've had quite a lot of communication over Instagram this year, so it's actually lovely to speak to your face.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's very nice to realize that Instagram is real people.
There is a face behind the screen. I think you can forget sometimes, can't you? How's lockdown been for you?
It's been boring, I guess. I'm feel lucky that it's been boring for me instead of more traumatic. You know, I work from home. I worked from home before this. So actually it hasn't been a tremendous change in my day-to-day, other than not being able to see people and everything being closed. What about you? How's it been?
It's been weird, especially because I'm doing my degree. So I was hoping to do that in Manchester, and then I've moved back home to Leicester since March. And I would have to admit that I probably wouldn't have done my master's this year if I'd have known. But you just couldn't have predicted something like this at all. So
No, yeah. I feel so much for people that are in school. Like, it's such a rough end. Are you finishing this year?
October, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, like I can't imagine if you were going into college this year, like I feel like I'd probably just take a gap year or something. Like what a weird time to try to start college in.
It's absolutely crazy. But it's a privilege to have you here, like I said, to speak with me today and learn more about your project. I wanted to speak with you because with this Circular New project I'm doing, I want to try and highlight different sort of entry-level circular access routes, if that makes sense. And I think sometimes that starts right at home with our own wardrobes, and people can forget that. But before we go any further, are you able to just tell me a bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and I do a lot of work with data and illustration and branding. And I've done a variety of kind of data projects on myself in the past. So just like jumping into this project, I knew that I wanted to fix my own wardrobe or fix my own relationship with my wardrobe. So I was immediately like, well, first of all, I need to stop buying so much just in general. And second, I feel like I can fix this with data. So that was like the beginning of that. It's just like things that I do, and then I'm trying to solve this problem for myself and kind of enter into this larger conversation at the same time.
Where does your interest in like sustainable fashion come from, or more sustainable fashion systems, I guess?
Yeah, I was trying to think like where it really started. I think it started for me 2 or 3 years ago. It started on Instagram for me. I follow How Not to Travel Like a Basic Bitch.
Yes, I follow
Yeah,
her.
yeah, I love her. And I think she's the first, she just like casually mentioned that she doesn't buy clothes once, like 3 years ago. And I was like, she doesn't buy clothes, like she doesn't buy clothes. And like, it's not something that's like a focus of her account, but she's like very intersectional in everything that she does. So it does come up. And I think she interviewed or featured Aja Barber at one point. So then I was like in it and I started following her and learning so much. So that was maybe like a year and a half ago. And so then last year I was like, okay, like I'm just going to switch to all of these better brands. Like I can buy my way out of this problem.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not good either. Which is why I came to the conclusion that I just need to pump the brakes.
I like that. I think Instagram is like a place where a lot of people have these sort of awakenings. So I think that's getting more common, that they're exposed to more things and like, oh, I don't have to buy clothes. That's actually a thing you can do. I never knew.
Yeah, you can actually skip that entire thing. And I've been thinking about how I actually had it completely figured out in high school. Like I only thrifted pretty much and borrowed stuff from my family. Like I stole all of my grandma's clothes, and my friends and I did clothes swaps all the time. Like I was like, we already had it. Like I had it and I lost it.
Yeah. No, I love that. So obviously from that you've brought about Data Closet. Can you explain a bit more about what that project is and why you started documenting it on Instagram?
The main idea behind putting on Instagram was I looked around and I hadn't seen anyone doing this exact thing. So I was like, okay, like I know I want to do it, but I wanted to look and see if it was already happening, and it didn't seem like it really was. So I was like, cool, like I want to do it on Instagram for accountability. And I just felt like there was starting to be this stronger community of people that were kind of interested in it on Instagram, which I feel like was maybe not true a couple years ago, or maybe I just hadn't found those people. Because I feel like when I had like brushed past sustainable fashion Instagram a few years ago, it was very homogenous and like everyone is like very modelly and wearing 4 layers of linen. And I just didn't connect to that at all. And it didn't feel interesting or accessible, or like they were really focused on the right things. So I lost my train of thought, but basically I wanted to do it in the community and get to know the community, and have accountability. And the idea of tracking it, I just feel like unless you have data, it's all just kind of, it's all very like feelsy and you can't really tell. And I find that over and over when I go and look back at the data, I'm like, I could have sworn I wore that like 50 times last month, and it's like one wear. So that felt like the only way for me to get a real handle on how I wear things, what I wear, how my wardrobe might evolve in the future, how to take care of my wardrobe. I'm keeping notes on what needs to be fixed, like what would be better if I got it tailored, like all of that kind of stuff. I just feel like and part of it is having a larger wardrobe size, which I could have a smaller wardrobe, but the way it is now, it is like a project to keep track of everything and like take care of everything.
I absolutely love it. I've loved following it. I want to touch back onto you saying, finding sort of community through Instagram, because I actually found you through the No New Clothes hashtag right at the start of the year, because obviously we're both doing the same challenge. I found that little pocket of community on Instagram, which was great. But you're doing every single day, you are documenting your wardrobe and what you're wearing. Like that is a very big commitment. How are you sustaining your motivation to do that?
Well, the last couple of months have been a little spottier. I took most of June off to focus on Black Lives Matter's content, listening, and I created like little history, like Black fashion history focused posts, which I'm hoping to still sprinkle in. One, because I think it's fun to talk about something other than myself, and two, because they're just really interesting to research, and there are all these people that I've never heard of that I wish I had already heard of. But yes, it is difficult to keep it up, and I've kind of given myself a little bit of a pass now that I'm not going to, if I fall behind, I will just start on the day. Like I will not try to catch up, because I've done that a few times and it's really stressful and like difficult if you're offline for a few days. So it is difficult, but it helps having the public accountability to keep going.
Yeah, imagine. It's part of the creative process. Even though you're doing like dealing with statistics and numbers, it's a creative project. And I know from being a creative that you definitely have dips in your motivation. You just don't even want to look at your work. You're like, no. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. So obviously you're documenting this on social media, and technology is obviously very important for that. But do you think, on the flip side, social media has arguably perpetuated fast fashion consumption at all?
Definitely. Yes. Yes. I think it definitely has. I see it all over the place. I mean, you see it all over the place. Just kind of the pressure to always be posting a new thing. And I feel like this happens even in sustainable fashion land. There's still people that are talking about sustainable fashion a lot. They're still consuming clothes at what feels like a really alarming rate, which is helped by getting things gifted and whatever, but it still creates this feeling like, wow, like people are just getting so much stuff, which is why, you know, I unfollowed a lot of people going into this, and I unfollowed like most brands, a lot of brands going into this, like, especially at the beginning. I've refollowed some people now, but just like that constant shopping button is really tempting, and like the whole environment of feeling like you need to have something new to post all the time is destructive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I found for me, because my challenge actually started last year, that it was only to buy secondhand clothes throughout the whole of 2019, which I did, but I bought more than I'd ever bought because it was all charity shops. So I actually overconsumed more than I'd ever done. And I was like, okay, that was incredibly counterproductive. So
Right.
that's why this year I'm like, you need to take this up a gear. You need to see if you can actually do this. So it is, some days I kind of feel like I've got nothing to wear. And that's why I think you having those visual documents saying, actually, I've not worn this in that long, I could wear that. So I think that's really, really powerful.
It's definitely really, I think two things. It's been really handy. I can look through like, what are all my things I've only worn one time this year? Like those are all great places to go look if I'm feeling like I'm in a rut or something. But also I am doing, my rules are one in for every 3 out items. So trying to like move in a smaller wardrobe direction. And I'm doing $20 a month budget for secondhand only. So I wanted to like limit money and limit number of items, because I was worried about going down that like, let's go to the thrift store again road. But so I'm sorry, what was your question? I've completely lost my train of thought.
It was just to know, like, well, I wanted to go on to asking you, because this kind of follows what you were saying, how your relationship with your wardrobe has changed, and you saying like the 3-to-1 thing and introducing a spending budget. It sounds like already you're learning things from what you're finding out about yourself and your wardrobe.
Right. I think the other thing, so I have my little mini illustrations of everything in my wardrobe. So I can basically like start putting outfits together with that, just like on my computer. I like think of an idea and I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just like go throw that together. And then it's like an outfit ready to go for the future. But I've also, like when I'm considering buying a new thing, I can very quickly go into my spreadsheet and be like, do I already have this item?
Yeah.
Because I definitely am guilty of like, oh, I love this kind of thing. So then I end up with 4 basically identical black skater dresses, and I don't need that. So just like being able to quickly check in and see what I have, and quickly visually check in and think about if that would actually fit into my wardrobe, or if that's like a totally different direction that wouldn't go with anything I have.
I've been so guilty of that before. I've bought stuff that I probably would never wear, but I thought it's so nice to have it, and then it just sits in your wardrobe because it doesn't go with anything you already own. So I know I've been very guilty of that in the past.
Right. It's like a little island, and you're like, okay, cool. So I could buy like a bunch more things, so then I have something to wear with it, or it just sits there. And yeah, both of those directions are not great.
So I want to ask if you actually miss the notion of retail therapy at all, because it's quite a social thing. Like, I've gone on family shopping trips since I've been not buying clothes, and I find it a bit odd. What's your opinion on that? Do you miss retail therapy?
I miss thrifting, but that's mostly just like because of lockdown. Because I would still be like out there looking for things, even if I'm buying a lot fewer items. I think I'm maybe not as social of a shopper. So I think it's maybe affected me a little bit less. It hurts sometimes seeing something really amazing and being like, maybe next year, like there's no hope of that.
Just forgot about it next year. It'll be out your
Yeah,
mind.
so I do have a little list of like the maybe next year like saved items, but it's funny because I go back and visit it from time to time, and oftentimes I've completely forgotten about things on that list, and it's like, cool, take it off. Like clearly I didn't love it that much, so I'm curious to see what makes it, like what's still kicking around in my brain at the end of the year, and I'm like, yep, like that's the one thing I really want. But I feel like I just kind of shifted like my first month or so. It was pretty torturous. Like I really missed it. And I was like, I want to go. And I didn't want really anything specifically. I just like liked being out and shopping. It was just like a hobby. And I think I just going cold turkey, I just like kind of got over it. I don't know, like it's been okay since then.
I'm the same as you. There was a couple of dips at the start of the year, and then I think the pandemic may have helped, because the way I don't like shopping online, I like to try clothes on, and obviously with all the charity shops shut, there was no temptation anyway. I couldn't walk past shops and browse because of lockdown. But for me personally, I don't really have an urge to shop at all. I've worn the same 3 outfits on repeat since March in rotation. I've washed them, but the same 3 outfits. So
Good to say.
yeah. Do you repair or upcycle any of your clothes? Is that something that you've had a go at during this year? Yeah.
I've done a little bit. I don't have a sewing machine, and I'm like not a great sewer in general, but I've been working on it. I have fixed a pair of pants. I dyed something. I've never tried dyeing something before, but I had this dress that I liked, but I just like, it was like a shade of pink that made me feel 5 years old. So I couldn't figure out what to do with it. So I dyed it black. And I'm wearing it more. So those are I think those are my only major things so far, but I'm very interested in learning how to sew more. I wish I had like paid attention when my mom was trying to teach me. Because I love watching people's upcycles. I think that's so cool. And that's like, we should all be thinking about that before donating or selling or whatever our clothes.
Yeah, I wish I was better at it as well. I did textiles at college, and I was always very good at the designing, and the second you put me in front of a sewing machine, I was like, no, it's not going to happen. So
I just feel like I don't even know my sewing machine where it's the bobbin, the
yeah.
thread, like it's just like someone else is sewing, it's totally fine, just like going along, and I sit down and it immediately like completely blows up, and I can't fix it after that. So
Has a mind of its own. So I've noticed as well, especially recently, because obviously I've been following your project since basically the start of the year, so it's been lovely to see it grow and develop. And there were shifts in the project's narrative as sort of the events of this year unfolded, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement. You started to include little face masks in your outfits, which I thought was a really nice touch. You did a couple of posts on, the Black Lives Matters, the t-shirt by Pierre Moss, I think it was, with all the names on. How have the events of this year not only shaped the project, but you as an individual?
this has been a wild year.
Yeah.
It's been a really wild year. I definitely think that the project and me, we are both different now than we were at the beginning of the year. And I've definitely had moments of thinking like, this is not the best use of my time, or like I should be doing something more productive or more meaningful, or like be out in the streets more or something. And I keep going back to like, no, like the bigger picture is important, but like I also believe in this. And I think it's the same kind of tension that I think larger environmentalism sort of ignores fashion a lot of the time because it's frivolous and unnecessary and whatever, which is hilarious because everyone has to wear some kind of clothing. But it's that same kind of thing where I was sort of dismissing it. Like I was dismissing the project a little bit because it felt small in comparison to like the biggest civil rights movement in 70 years. But I'm pushing through that, and I'm trying to find ways to meaningfully incorporate what's happening and try to be as intersectional as possible with everything that I'm doing, because I really do think this is important. And I really do think I do think sustainable fashion and ethical fashion are deeply connected to racial justice. So all of these things are connected, and I lost sight of it for a little bit, but I think I've come around to knowing that everything can be important at the same time, which is overwhelming. But where I think we need to be.
Yeah, I completely get that. When it's after George Floyd happened, I had a week at home where I just couldn't even look at uni work, because like you were saying, it just felt so insignificant compared to not only, you know, the Black Lives Matter, but then the pandemic and there was just so much important conversation coming to light at once. It was like, how do I divide my efforts and attention appropriately so that it's most effective as it can be? I mean, I think what a lot of people have also realized, like you were saying, is how connected everything is, that we can't treat these as, you know, racism, environmental justice, fashion, they are so interlinked that actually doing something like data closet, even though you might feel it's not beneficial, it is, because you're addressing that. And you've shown that through how I've seen your project adapting. So I think you have been doing really, really well with it, to be fair.
Well, thank you. It's been harder than I anticipated. I was like going into it, I didn't know like any of this was going to happen. No one knew what we were getting into this year. So I've tried to adapt and make it better and make it a better conversation and a place where multiple types of conversation can happen.
Yeah, I think it is doing that. I really do. I've also noticed within the project, you've set yourself mini challenges. So you did a capsule wardrobe challenge. Could you tell me a bit more about what that was like? Because it's something I'm intrigued by, but I just don't know if I could ever do it.
I was exactly the same way, which is why I was like, I should do it, because I feel like I'm very much a maximalist, and I like having like a lot of variety. And it was the same kind of thing where I'd seen a lot of capsule wardrobes, and like it was always like, you need one pair of black pants, one like camel trench coat, one like gray sweatshirt, and like it was just these like incredibly boring capsules, and I couldn't get on board with it. So I thought, as like a design challenge, how would I design a capsule so that it would work for me, so that it would be fun and I don't know, force me to do kind of something creative with it. So I came up with like my own system to build one, where I picked kind of like one center piece that I really loved. Like I was like, okay, this is going to be like the foundation of it, and it will not be a neutral, and it will not be boring. And then think about like, okay, like how long do I want to do it? And I picked a month, which I think was too long. I would not have done that in hindsight. Like I think like 2 weeks would be nice,
Yeah.
but a month was a really long time. But I did a month, and then I looked up like weather and like what's happening. It was the pandemic, so very little was happening, but what weather is happening? So then I built out from there, like what are the pieces that I need, and thinking about everything going together or having a possibility of going together, but not being made out of boring pieces. So I learned that a month is a long time for me to do that. I really loved it for week 1.5 to 2. And then after that, I was like, I don't know, this is a lot. This is a lot of the same thing. And I can't remember my exact number now, but it was really small. I think it was like 20 items or less. So I would maybe go bigger, and I would maybe do a shorter period of time. But I've been doing kind of an alternate version where I just put out like an assortment of things that I feel like would be fun to wear together on my like little hanging rack. And that's sort of like a jumping off place, instead of having to dive into my entire wardrobe to make decisions.
I think that's my next challenge sorted, isn't it? That I'm going to have to try a capsule wardrobe. Yeah.
Yeah, pick a shorter period of time to start. That's my main advice. I can't imagine people that do it full time. Like it almost feels like it's best for people that don't really like getting dressed particularly. Like I can see it as a very practical thing. If you just want to be like, my little sister, for example, is super practical. Like she basically does have a capsule wardrobe. When she finds something she likes, she buys 3 of them, and that's just like what she wears. Like she's like a cartoon character. So I can't do that, but some people can, and I think that's great and something to encourage, and something that gets away from the wear it once culture. So I think for some people, capsule wardrobes can be the answer. It's just not a complete answer for me.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be on the same page with you for that as well. What do you think the next steps for Data Closet will be once you finish this year?
I have a lot of thoughts. I think I built kind of like a preliminary version that I've shared with some people that have been interested, that want to build like a similar spreadsheet or a similar data set of their closet. I don't think that that's a very user-friendly solution and it's not even that user-friendly for me, and I it's hard to do on my phone. Like I really need to be on my computer to do it, so I want to build a better tool to track. And I mean, like, ideal state, I want to be able to take a mirror selfie and it should suggest what everything is that I'm wearing. Like that would be my personal, like that would be the most likely that most people could do that once a day. And like, even if it's like, oh, which black t-shirt is this? Like you could tell it, something like that. So that's kind of like a really big picture, what I would like it to be. But I think like the main thing is, I want to continue it in some way, and I want it to be more accessible to more people as a concept to use. So I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I think some sort of app that makes it a lot easier to use for most people would be the way to go to get started on that.
Well, as you know, I actually loved your project so much that I featured it in my own uni project as a potential service for a circular fashion concept store I designed. You told me that you had a couple of things that you wanted to ask me about that. Should we switch roles and you ask me a couple of questions if you'd like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first question, when can I go? Like, I love the concept.
You come to the opening party.
I would love to. I really, really I love the way that you put it together, as it feels more like a community space and less like a mall, or less like a shop. I'm curious, have you reached out to everyone that you've featured in it?
Not everybody that I featured in it. I know a couple of the people that were featured anyway. So the one that does customized shoe designs actually did a bachelor's degree on my course. One of the secondhand vintage sellers I'm really good friends with. So some of them are already personal connections. And then there was bigger brands like Christopher Rayburn. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he's like a big upcycling name in the UK, and he's doing not a Zoom interview but a written interview for me. And I have tried to make this all these communications as close to the contacts or the people I'd featured in the book. Obviously accessibility isn't a thing for everybody, especially with so much going on at the moment. A lot of brands are very, very busy. But yeah, so it's been really nice because it's led to, meeting new people and learning more about what they do. So it's been lovely.
I loved how completely thought through it was. Like, here's the playlist that will, I listened to the playlist. Here's the playlist. Like, here's what it's made out of. And I liked, the idea, I'm trying to remember now, like in the basement, like the cycling class that's also like powering it. I love that.
It was so random. When you're just scrolling through Facebook and you see very random ads, it was just a bicycle that you can wash your clothes in, and I was like, I'm going to save this. I don't know when I'm going to use it, but I will use it at some point. And then when I was designing this store, I was like, oh my god, who can go in this store? So yeah, the idea was just, it's probably the most wacky idea of the store, but an exercise class where you power the store and you can wash your clothes in a very eco-friendly way. I thought, put it in there, why not? So
I love it. I wish like everybody's buying those really expensive at home like cycling bikes. I'm like, I wish all of these were like that. Like, we're like, why is everyone cycling and not creating electricity? Yeah, I love that idea.
Oh, thank you. It was good because it just allowed me to let my imagination run wild of what the future of fashion or retail could be. So yeah, it was really good. And sort of on that note, what impact would you like to have on the fashion world?
Whew.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I do, like this is kind of where I would like to go and what I would like to be focusing on full time, is trying to figure out how to make fashion better. And I think the main thing that I'm kind of getting at is retraining your brain to not love new things, and the sort of conscious unlearning of consumerism that like is fun at the same time. I kind of talked about that in my post today. Like my Birkenstocks just had their 100th wear. So so making this whole system where instead of being like, oh, like I've worn this so much lately, like as a refrain in society, instead of that being like, I've worn this so much lately, like being excited and proud of your clothes and like how you take care of them and how long you can make them last, and how like all of these kind of forgotten skills, I feel like people used to have these skills, like my grandparents like made all their clothes and they fixed all their clothes, and like we had these skills really recently and we just lost them. So I guess I want people to change their relationship with their closets to where they're proud of and protecting and repairing everything that they own, because that's, in my mind, that's the most important step. Like we could totally stop making clothes today and wouldn't need to start again for 10, 20 years. I don't know, like we could take a big break and I think we'd be just fine. We have enough clothes running around. We just need to value them again. And I think that's a major part of this is, in my mind, like I know that I can't just go or get a replacement for something necessarily. So I'm being more careful with things, and I'm like double reading the care label and like making sure I actually do the things that are necessary to take care of everything, from like nicer, more expensive things to my thrift finds. Like I want to treat them all with respect and equally. So I think that's what I want to do. I want to help people change their relationship with their clothes, and that means valuing them, and it means repairing them and learning how to fix them, which I'm slowly figuring out. And I think the other thing is putting money back into taking care of your clothes, which I've never really done before this. I'm having a piece of jewelry repaired, which I've never really done before. I broke this necklace that I love, and I contacted the maker, and she was like, yeah, totally, like send it back to me, I'll fix it. And I was like, great, like I love it. But I've never done that before. Like I would have probably just tossed it a few years ago and been like, well, oh well, like it's done now. So I don't know, it's just like being more aware, caring more about everything, and treating everything as a finite resource, because it is.
It's about, I think you're right, it's just about re-establishing a relationship with our clothes and loving our clothes so much that we want to wear them over and over and we want to take care of them. And it's funny that you said that about the necklace, because this year, obviously, I'm in the same situation. I can't go and buy new stuff. I've worn my Docs so much at work that they're starting to break, and I was like, I could pay to get these fixed. There must be somewhere that's going to fix it. I haven't investigated it yet because it doesn't quite need it, but that's something that I can explore as an avenue that I've never done before. So it's opening up new fashion opportunities, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, I think and my next step is either I can't decide like in a pandemic if I really want to go down this road or not, but I have a variety of things that are like almost perfect. Like they just don't quite fit right. So they really just need, like, I need to figure out how to do like basic adjustments or talk to someone that can do basic adjustments, because it makes such a big difference, like the things that are almost right versus the things that are all the way right, which is kind of something I want to add to the as a column, like, does this fit perfectly, or does this fit okay, or does this fit poorly? And then like, I'm sure it's like a straight line between how well it fits and how much I wear it, because like that, you love wearing things that fit you well and that make you feel good. So trying to just like move as much of my closet into that category as possible is like a simple, I need to become a seamstress or become friends with a seamstress thing I need to work on.
That would be really interesting to see that if you do that and document it, just to see in your data how that would be. It would be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's like, I have like 50 columns already, but that's another one to add, definitely.
Another one on. Just go on, go for it. Oh,
Yeah.
Chelsea, thank you so much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. It's been lovely actually just speaking to you, like I said, in person. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for having me. And I loved hearing more about your project, which I really do want to see in the real world sometime soon.
Well, I'll keep you invited. I'll get you invited when it's finally up and running. Don't you worry.
All right.
Thank you so much, lovely. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.